It was a case and a story unlike any we've covered on Court TV. It began as an unsolved mystery after best friends Libby German and Abby Williams went missing in February.
Hey, did we get new maps?
After going
Brother. Pop. Is he awake?
for a hike near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana. The mystery of where they were was soon solved when they were found murdered, their throats split, one girl naked, and the other wearing her friend's clothes. It was a bizarre crime scene, and the search for a killer began. Over the next 5 years, there were a series of clues revealed by investigators that seemed a bit disjointed and unconnected. A video and audio of the killer on the bridge, sketches of the suspect that looked like two different people. Then, a fake profile on social media linked to a man who pleaded guilty to possessing child pornography. Then finally, the arrest of Richard Allen, a man who had actually called into the tip line right after the murders. Things
about the Delphi murders. That's that fool.
This ritualistic murder scene. Then, in another strange twist, the judge ruled Richard Allen's choice of attorneys over his objections. The attorneys appealed and then were reinstated, but they were not permitted to present evidence of any third parties they believed were connected to the murders, and if they were identified by law enforcement. Finally, Richard Allen was convicted, and today was his sentencing. We have a live report from Indiana with all the latest information. I'm Vinny Valente. Thank you so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. It's a story and a case that we've been covering for years, and a trial that we covered here on this program. Despite the fact that there were no cameras inside, we brought you those details night after night. But as we sit here tonight and think about what happened today, it was a huge day for Abby and Libby. Yes, justice was delayed in this case. It shouldn't have been, based upon the facts, the way investigators and prosecutors ended up presenting them to the world and to the jury. It should not have been delayed, but it was. But tonight, Abby, Libby, their families can turn the page. They can turn the page on this. Go to sleep tonight with a sense of, okay, the person we believe is responsible has been held responsible. The questions we had were answered, and justice was served. But that justice was delayed, and to me, that is a big part of that story still tonight. Now, if you look on the other side of the courtroom and all this, for Richard Allen, was justice denied. That's what he's claiming. That justice was denied to him. That the truth did not come out inside that courtroom.
Dude, you confessed.
That the jury didn't hear
Stupid.
what he and his attorneys had to say. That he is
nothing that guy that killed them girls. He pretty much confessed to doing it.
Beyond any reasonable doubt. And he's holding on to that.
Yeah.
As he gets ready to serve.
He's lucky he didn't get the death penalty.
30 years in prison. Obviously, there will be appeals. Maybe they'll win, maybe they'll lose, we don't know. As we sit here tonight, Richard Allen has no chance but for an appeal to ever see the light of day after this. Well, let's go back to what has transpired. This was an unusual trial. It's extremely unusual in many different facets. The state of Indiana had recently changed its guidance and its rules on cameras in the courtroom and was allowed to permit them. And that's why we have this image of this judge, because she permitted cameras inside the courtroom for about 15 seconds. And then tossed the cameras out because she said that someone did something with the video that they weren't supposed to do. Still can't figure it out. But that's just from our perspective. What's more important is the actual trial, the search for the truth. And this was a case where the judge took the defendant's counsel of choice, like his attorneys, and took the case I've never seen that before. They had to take this to the appellate courts to get put back on the case. A case that they're doing pro bono. His defense attorneys had to litigate and had to fight to be able to represent him. That is strange. That is bizarre. The overriding gag order and the secretive nature of everything that's happening in this case was unusual. And then the rulings. In a case where there was a task force that was looking at certain suspects, and there was a portion of that task force, not all of them, but more than one person, several people in that task force, this whole thing was the work of a ritualistic killing by Otis. The defense agreed that was going to be their defense. The judge didn't allow any of it. Didn't allow the jury to hear anything really from the defense about anyone else involved in the case, including the man whose property the girls were found on. This is strange. He was the owner of the property. He also lied about where he was at the time of the murders. And the jury heard nothing about that. It was really bizarre, the rulings. The investigation you go back to, that was unusual as well. Because the man they ended up charging, Richard Allen, the man is convicted, the man is serving the rest of his life in prison. The day that they put out that image of the rich guy,
I'm on your side.
And they followed up on that, and he said, I was there that day. And then they sat on that information for 5 years in the biggest case that they've ever had, the biggest investigation that they seemingly were stumped for 5 years. The guy who they convicted called the tip line himself and said I was there, and they did zero follow-up on that. Like, how could you, in a case like that, it's not the first thing, like, who was there that day? All right, guys, we're going to take a fresh look at this. Who was there that day? It was unusual. Everything was.
No,
So,
it ain't,
speaking
man.
of unusual,
Fucking
Superintendent of
done.
Indiana State Police spoke today after the sentencing of Richard Allen. There's been a gag order, like a broad gag order, like an overriding gag order. But now he was apparently able to finally say something. Take a listen.
I wish you all could have been in the courtroom today and heard the victim impact statements. I'll always remember them. And I hope you'll get the transcripts and read what was said and try and understand the context of those words, even though you weren't in the courtroom. Over the course of these last many years, there have been many investigative strategies. Any notion of a cover-up? Any notion of us deciding the outcome of this? Any notion of any connection to anything else is not correct. It's not correct.
Good to see you, fucker.
I've never been a detective in my entire lifetime, but I get to represent some of the best on the planet Earth. And I listened to them intently. And when they made strategy decisions associated with what the next steps would be, my job was to support them, and I stand by those decisions, every single one of them. The gag order. We lived by that. We lived by that gag order. The defense did not. And it cost a human life. Anybody that shares those photographs of those two loved should be held accountable. Whether they're in the public sphere, whether they're emailed to you, whether you found them in a place you didn't want them to see. I hope that if you ever see them, you'll picture your own children as Abby and Libby. I'll never forgive that. I will never, ever forgive that. We lived by the gag order. Documents were released from the defense that drove a public narrative that many of you talked about. Damn it, I wish I could have responded. was not going to violate what Judge Galt said. So they were able to get these documents out there and create a public narrative that you and many others, many of you, and many others believed around the globe. Baldwin and Rosier are responsible for that, not this team.
God bless me. You're the right
The
thing.
family effects, I think you'll see the words that were spoken by the folks that spoke today about their lives and how they've been forever changed, how they'll never be the same. And they said it in ways that were beautiful in some kind of a mysterious way. There's an attorney in Indianapolis by the name of Guy Relford. And I heard Guy on the radio after the verdict, when a lot of hate mail came, death threats came. And I heard Guy Relford say that day on the radio, and I called him 15 minutes after he said it. And after 40 years in this business, I never thought about the jury's perspective. He said the only people that mattered in that courtroom was the jury. And he went on to talk about, he's a very bright attorney, he went on to talk about what they can see that we can't, that you couldn't. They can see the defense, they can see the state, they can see the witnesses, feel the emotion, and they could see Richard Allen. I'd never thought about that perspective because we have a singular view most times. You, me, it's human nature. Judge Galt was the keeper of the peace in that courtroom, but the people that mattered were those 12 jurors. And we have a system of justice that allows them to decide the fate of a human being. That's what
Good night, baby.
that's what our
Love you.
founders had
January,
established.
Merry Christmas.
And that's what they did. I hope you all understand that what you say and how you report matters more than you can ever possibly comprehend. This is an opportunity for us to all learn about what social media is and isn't, what we should do and what we shouldn't, and understand that their words have consequences to other human beings. I appreciated Guy's perspective, and it changed my view of the criminal proceeding. Richard Allen knew. How about we hit that reset button and understand that justice in this country was served, and if you don't like justice in this country, go to another one.
Well,
Let's heal. Tone down the rhetoric. Stop all the politics and all the nonsense and all the conspiracy theories, and understand that we all tried the best we could. That should be the message to us and to our kids, and to this most amazing place we call the United States of America.
Hostiles gone.
I don't follow it completely what he was saying, and I'll just briefly say the solution to everything that he was pointing out is transparency, and the lack of transparency created all those things he was talking about. And there was no transparency in the state of Indiana through the investigation and through the trial. And he started off by saying, I wish you could be in the courtroom. Well, guess what? We could have been. We could have had our cameras in there and our microphones. We would have seen Richard Allen. We would have seen the witnesses. We would have heard the evidence. You want the narrative to change on social media? Let the people see the trial. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Everything you complained about gets fixed. Gets fixed with transparency.
oh, shut your take-hole.
You all led by the judge. He's like going on social media, the media. Like what we did was wrong. You should have been in that courtroom. You told us not to be there. All right, I've done enough. I'm off the soapbox. Joining us live from Indiana, Court TV senior producer Barbara McDonald, who was there and was in the courtroom. So glad she was. Wow. And that was strange. That was really strange. I'm sorry. I'm just going to call it like I see it. Because he was throwing shade at the media. He was throwing shade at the media. You know, transparency is the disinfectant. Go down to Florida, learn how to do it. I'm sorry, Barbara. Tell us what you decided to sentence him.
It was a very quick hearing, Vinny. It was about an hour and 5 minutes. The defense chose not to bring any witnesses, not talk about any evidence, not say much of anything at all. They filed a sentencing memo that they said spoke for what they had to say. So we heard from one witness, Jerry Holman, the lead investigator for Indiana State Police, and we heard from 6 family members of Abby and Libby in those victim impact statements that were very emotional and very angry, not only talking about everything that they've lost and the pain and the fear that they have lived with all these years, but also a lot of very harsh words for the defense, that some family members accused of re-victimizing them by some of the efforts that they took to defend Richard Allen from these charges, doing their job, essentially, and that carried over to the press conference as well, with several people commenting about the defense putting out this narrative through that Odinism report, things like that. One interesting moment in court was Richard Allen was actually being sentenced, and the judge was looking straight at him. She did not ask him to stand, and she said she spoke about the carnage that he left behind and how that's going to cause generational trauma to these families. And then she paused, looked at him, and said, "And now you're going to roll your eyes at me like you've done throughout this trial?" That was something that none of us in the gallery had been aware of. Obviously, we sit behind him in court. We can't see his face. I had not heard any allegations previously that he had been rolling his eyes during the trial. It was something I asked the prosecutor, or the prosecutor was asked about it during the press conference. And I think we have a little bit of that sound as well.
Okay, let's take a listen.
Well, I had no idea. I heard Nick was asked that same question, and he didn't see it either. I bet the jury did. But again, the jury sees both sides, the state, the defense, the witnesses, Richard Allen. Sees how people come and how they go. But even Nick didn't notice it.
Yeah, so nobody really noticed that in court at all, but perhaps the jury did, Vinny.
All right, let's get back to the press conference, Barbara. And by the way, when it comes to the family and everything else, that's why our cameras want to be there, to capture those moments so the public understands. Like it's
The man is guilty,
like
you stupid son of a bitch. His fucking gun, casing from his gun, was there at the scene.
To understand the case. How do you trust the system of justice? He's telling us how great the system is. I say that all the time. And how can people trust it if you don't see it in action? If everything is done,
Or just because you're not there.
And there's so many ways that the cameras can be accommodated in court. Even the court can provide a camera in the back of the courtroom to make the process easier. And I think that was badly needed in this case.
All right, so let's tell us about this press conference, because this was, we showed a piece of it, but there was a lot more to this whole thing.
So they did take a few questions. Only the prosecutor responded to the questions. At one point, somebody tried to ask Superintendent Carter a question, and Nick said he's not going to be answering right now. I'm answering the questions. And the question that I had was, throughout this process, they have said they can't clear all these other men that they looked at, some of the men that the defense talked about, other men, Ron Logan, Kegan Kline. And so that was my question, was now can you clear those men? Because the person that you say did this by himself, you have sentenced him to 130 years. Are those other men cleared? And it was an interesting response.
Who is all the other men? I may not use that word cleared, but what I can tell you is we don't have any other evidence that ties them to the offense at this time.
And the Superintendent Carter to talk to him one-on-one after the press conference. Here's what he had to say.
We don't say clear to anybody. I appreciate the question. I appreciate it when you asked it in there. Human behavior is kind of interesting, isn't it? It's fascinating. And just because this trial is over, other than the appeal process, which is okay, that doesn't mean somebody's not going to come forward and give us some additional information of what occurred maybe before the murders.
And that's rather interesting, what occurred before the murders. You know, that was something I wanted to hear during the trial. What was exactly going on for Richard Allen in his head, what was going on in his life, and that was something we did not hear at trial. We only heard about what he did that day leading up to the murders. And so I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions for a lot of people, Vinny, that, you know, I asked Superintendent Carter also, is the tip line going to stay open? And he said yes.
Interesting. Well, I mean, you're in a much different perspective than most of us, right? You got to see the trial and hear the evidence, so you have something to draw upon. The rest of us, obviously, we listened to your reporting, etc., but we didn't get to experience and get to see it. We didn't get to hear it. And that's such a disservice, especially for a case like this. Especially for a case like this, where you're dealing with all of these other theories, other suspects, the defense is saying is only like, let's see the evidence. Does it all make sense? And that's how you cure it. Like, they still got to get their tech. All right, how about the defense? They speak today.
They said very few words. Bradley Rosie did get up after the movement statements were read, after several of the family members spoke about the defense and the stunts they pulled and the re-victimization of the defense. And he advised the judge not to consider any of those comments that were about the defense attorneys in her sentencing of Richard Allen. I'm not sure it really mattered. I think he was going to get the 130 years regardless, and he did.
Yeah, he was getting the max. Like, we know he was getting the max, right? And if
Yeah, but
he did, and the jury said he did what he did, he should get the max. And 130 is less than, I guess, life without parole. So it's, it sounds like a lot, but it's, life without parole to me is a more severe sentence. But 130, that's, it gets the job done. Somebody who does what he got convicted of doing should never walk a free man again. I mean, that's obvious. There's really no. Yeah. Great job. Fantastic, as always. Thank you so much. We're going to speak with a private investigator who has worked this case, plus coming up next time. And investigates the shocking murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And why was he targeted? We investigate.
just shut your white ass up,
Look at
boy.
the other side of all of that. Vinny Politan investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Friendly HPT on site. Keep them safe. We've taken the lead. Stay on task. HPT is taking fire. Keep the package safe.
Officer Alex, look Fish and Wildlife. Do you mind stepping out front with me? You're not coming out front? Why is that? Why? Why do you think you're going to get killed? See these with you? I need you to come out front. Start with me. Okay? Okay. Well, you're going to get this. Hey, bro, come here. It's with you. Okay. I need you to come out front of the store with me. Okay? Okay. Well, you're going to get detained right now. Okay? Yes, you are.
Can you verify, because other people want to bring me out? Because I just want to be clear.
Okay. Well, there's a lot more other people on the way. Huh? Okay. Phone down, your purse down, the lighter. Yes. Then put it down. No. You're getting detained. So the reason you're in handcuffs right now is for the mason jar filled with nails and kerosene that you constructed.
If there was something like that, it wasn't mine.
Okay, well, they have video of you putting that together.
It wasn't me.
Officer Alice, look at Fish and Wildlife. Do you mind stepping out front with me? You're not coming out front? Why is that?
Enemy HPT on site. Take them out.
This woman has what 66% of adults under 50 have and is highly infectious. It's a type of herpes virus that we can get from physical contact with others, even if that other party isn't showing any physical symptoms. Classically, this virus would cause a cold sore, but it could also present with dry, inflamed, chapped lips like this. Now, once we get infected with this herpes virus, sadly, it's with us for life, but there are things we can do to try and control the outbreaks or even prevent them from happening. Like using a cream called acyclovir in the first 5 days of you getting a cold sore can help it to go away faster. Or if you are getting outbreaks frequently, then there are tablets that you can take until they naturally reduce with time. Interestingly, this same virus, HSV1, can also cause genital herpes, but we don't call this herpes. This woman has what 66% of adults under 50 have and is highly infectious. It's a type of herpes virus that we can get from physical contact with others, even if that other party isn't showing any physical symptoms. Classically, this virus would cause a cold sore, but it could also present with dry, inflamed, chapped lips like this. And once we get infected with this herpes virus, sadly, it's with us for life, but there are things we can do to try and control the outbreaks or even prevent them from happening. Like using a cream called acyclovir in the first 5 days of you getting a cold sore can help it to go away faster. Or if you are getting outbreaks frequently, then there are tablets that you can take until they naturally reduce with time. Interestingly, the same virus, HSV1, can also cause genital herpes, but we don't call this herpes.
HPT is taking fire. Keep the package safe.
This woman has what 66% of adults under 50 have and is highly infectious. It's a type of herpes virus that we can get from physical contact with others, even if that other party isn't showing any physical symptoms. Classically, this virus would cause a cold sore, but it could also present with dry, inflamed, chapped lips like this. And once we get infected with this herpes virus, sadly, it's with us for life, but there
HVT under fire. Repeat, HVT under fire. Enemy RCXD detected. They got our HVT. Archangels up. Friendly HVT on site. Keep them safe.
This woman has what 66% of adults under 50 have and is highly infectious. It's a type of herpes virus that we can get from physical contact with others, even if that other party isn't showing any physical symptoms. Classically, this virus will cause a cold sore, but it could also present with dry, inflamed, chapped lips like this. And once we get infected with this herpes virus, sadly, it's with us for life, but there are things we can do to try and control the outbreaks or even prevent them from happening. Like using a cream called acyclovir in the first 5 days of you getting a cold sore can help it to go away faster. If you are getting outbreaks frequently, then there are tablets that you can take until they naturally reduce with time. Interestingly, this same virus, HSV1, can also cause genital herpes, but we don't call this herpes.
Bad guy.
HVT is taking fire. Keep the package safe. They got our HVT.
What goes around?
All units prepare for exfil. This one's ours.
I know how to do a lot of things. Losing isn't one of them.
That's for life, but there are things we can do to try and control.
I'm calling you from the Microsoft.
Oh, okay. Practice is over. Hi.
Who are you?
I'm a ghost.
Tell me my name. You know very well. I know that.
Oh, I know your name. I know everybody's name.
You tell me. You already tell my name.
I know, you're Priya. I'm a ghost, you see.
Who is beside me right now?
Fine. I think that's Mimi. I'm Jim Browning. I'm one of the world's best known scam dealers.
Hi, sir.
Surprise famous stores in the U.S. that have disappeared. I will never forgive them for getting rid of Kmart. I can't believe the 99-cent store is gone. I know it's really weird to simp over a store, but I really miss Sears. Pier 1 Imports. My mom loved shopping there. I still remember the smell in the store when I was little. Friday night, your friends staying over, and your parents drive you both to Blockbuster to pick out an awesome game or movie. That pure joy and excitement is something we'll never get back. Radio Shack. Dad and I used to spend a lot of time there. Justice stores were my second favorite store growing up, with Toys R Us being my first. I want to go back to being a Toys R Us kid. Surprise famous stores in the U.S. that have disappeared. I will never forgive them for getting rid of
Negro Mart.
Hardcore domination. Shoot to kill. We're not here to negotiate.
Black asshole.
We're losing Charlie.
I won't bother. I will not fucking bother.
Taking A.
This is not a flex. I'm pretty thin. See this?
Securing Charlie.
I'm pretty thin. You're 30 plus. If you do not have muscle mass, your body is going to have a hard time processing sugar.
Without resistance training, our bodies continually lose muscle mass after the age of 30, and that's a problem. You see, muscle fibers are absolutely packed to the brim with mitochondria because they are the powerhouses of the cell, which need to be ready to produce that energy when the muscle contracts. But even if you're not exercising, these mitochondria are still incredibly active, which means that they can utilize glucose that comes into the body rather than it going to be stored. Without medicine and drug, Neurovirus is job. What you see here is humanity's worst enemy, the most aggressive type of brain cancer, glioblastoma multiforme. Even after being cut out, it toxin and drug Neurovirus. Without training, we lose muscle and its beneficial metabolic effects and a rate of
Flex. I'm pretty thin. See this? This is not a flex. I'm
guilt snacking.
We're losing Alpha.
Confirmed.
This is not a flex. I'm pretty thin. See this? I'm pre-diabetic. You're 30 plus. If you do not have muscle mass, your body is going to have a hard time. This is not a flex. This is not a flex. I'm pretty thin.
Yes.
Securing B.
I'm pre-diabetic.
Here. See this? This is not a flex.
Securing Charlie. Bravo is ours. Gray authorizing UAV mission. Losing Bravo.
That's a kill. Enemy thermal barrack.
This is not a flex. Yes.
Locking down Charlie.
You're 30 plus. If you do not have muscle mass, your body is going to have a hard time processing sugar.
Resistance training, our bodies continually lose muscle mass after the age of 30, and that's a problem. You see, muscle fibers are absolutely packed to the brim with mitochondria because they are the powerhouses of the cell, which need to be ready to produce that energy when the muscle contracts. But even if you're not exercising, these mitochondria are still incredibly active, which means that they can utilize glucose that comes into the body rather than it going to be stored. Without training, we lose muscle and its beneficial metabolic effects at a rate of 3 to 8% per year after 30, and with acceleration after 60. That's why resistance training just 3 times a week can reduce risk of diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, and illness threatening.
Zone A secure.
This is not a flex. I'm pretty thin. See this? See this? I'm pre-diabetic.
Controlling Bravo.
Without training, we lose muscle and its beneficial. Without training, we lose muscle. Without training, we lose.
Lockdown. Taking C.
Never send a drug to do a virus's job. What you see here is humanity's worst enemy. Never send a drug to do a virus's job.
Secured. Hold your position.
We've
Locked C. Losing Bravo.
never send a drug to do a virus's job. What you see here is humanity's worst enemy, the most aggressive type of brain cancer, glioblastoma multiforme. Even after being cut out, it notoriously comes back, and patients at that point have an average survival of only around 6 months, with few proven effective treatment options. That's when this little guy comes in, the measles virus. It's classically associated with causing disease in humans, where it can be bioengineered to take over the cancer cell's machinery, starving it of nutrients and causing immune activation to that area. A phase 1 study by Galanis and colleagues showed that using this exact technique, they were able to extend the survival of patients with recurrent disease from 6 months to an average of 11 and a half. Not only did it almost double the survival time, but the patients in the study experienced no adverse effects, which is very unusual with cancer treatments, which usually have many. Should we play with viruses?
Maybe.
We're losing Alpha.
Never send a drug to do a virus's job. What you see here is humanity's worst enemy, the most aggressive type of brain cancer, glioblastoma multiforme. Even after being cut out, it notoriously comes back, and patients at that point have an average survival of only around 6 months, with few proven effective treatment options. That's when this little guy comes in, the measles virus. It's classically associated with causing disease in humans, His worst enemy, the most aggressive type of brain can. Without training, we use muscle.
Let me show you how to make the best Mexican red rice. Arroz rojo. To the blender cup, I'm gonna add 1 tomato, 1 piece of white onion, 2 garlic cloves. Here I have 1 tablespoon of each. Chicken bouillon and tomato bouillon. And last we add 1 cup of water. We blend. I'm gonna set my pan to low medium heat and add some oil. Oil is now hot. We start frying the rice, and I'm gonna add 2 cups of jasmine rice. We fry for a couple of minutes until golden. It's been 6 minutes, and as you can see, the rice is now golden. I'm gonna add and strain as we do so. Now we add 2 cups of water. Give it a mix, and this is the perfect time to check for more chicken bouillon. At this point, I like to add jalapeno to add a subtle spicy flavor. Now cover it and cook for 20 minutes on the lowest heat, and make sure to open it. It's been 20 minutes. Our piece is ready. It's fluffy. It smells delicious. Mexican red wine. Hey guys, now for the moment of truth. Cheers. Delicious Mexican red rice. Let me show you how to make the best Mexican red rice. Arroz rojo.
Chafoto Cacasteste.
Apparently, this alcohol makes it so you can't taste alcohol. It's called Tingla, and it's distilled using buzz buds. You know the little flower buds that you bite into and it makes your mouth tingle? Yeah, that's what they distilled this with. It's 35% alcohol, so we're going to try this out and see how it goes. Quick smell. That actually smells delicious. It smells like apple and cinnamon. I'm going to be honest, I have a lot of doubt for this product, but if it does work, please, for the love of God, keep it away from your degenerate friends. Last thing you want is your buddy ended up in the ambulance thinking it's a spaceship ride from Disney World. What I'm going to do is sip half, wait a minute, and then I'm going to try the rest and see if it works. Here we go. It actually tastes really good. Okay, wow. Yep, it just hit my tongue. Just a tingly vibration feeling all around my mouth. Let's take the rest and see if you can't taste the alcohol. Oh my God. This is the future of drinking.